Financing has to be one of the hardest things that people need to go through, especially when buying a property. Today we're going to be giving you the outcomes or what you can do in order for you to get that financing for the property.
So point number one when it comes to accessing finances, right, is that there's a government subsidy whereby it's called the FHF, the First Home Finance. If you are already buying your second, third or fourth property, unfortunately, you do not qualify for this one. To qualify for this property, you have to be earning from about 3,501 all the way to 22,000 a month. So what will then happen is that through your application, when it comes to the house that you've seen, you put a heart on it, you applied for it via bond. So what you'll be doing simultaneously is that you'll also be applying for the FLISP opportunity so that you can be granted these finances. So what the government will then do is that they'll do a feasibility check, and based on their outcomes, they will then provide finances that will either assist you with your transferring cost or as a deposit.
You can get up to 160,000 in terms of the subsidy. Looking at that, remember, the scale of how this works is that the more income you are getting, the less subsidy you're going to be getting. The less income you're getting, the more of the subsidy that you would actually qualify for. Now, previously, the only way that you could apply for the FLISP is that if you had already gotten the offer to purchase, right? So now what happens is that even people that have applied for the property and they've also gotten the financing, however, this was done, say for instance, 6 months back, you can still apply for the FLISP in order for you to get that grant. Where this becomes nice is if you're looking at it from a property investor perspective. A lot of people are saying that I'm not getting or I'm not able to get financing looking at my property, right? Now, if you're looking at it from a property investing perspective, you buy your first property as an investment, right? And then you use the FLISP as a way to actually decrease your total investment. This will ultimately increase your return on investment.
Yeah.
Say for instance, right now, you have 100,000, you put it into a property and the return on investment is 12,000, which ultimately means that you're getting a 12%, right? Now, if you got 50,000 from this FLISP, right? And now you put it as a deposit or you put it as a down payment, right? Now that will minus from the amount that you put in. So now it won't be the 100,000 that you initially needed. It might now mean that the only amount that you need to take out would be the 50,000. Yeah. Now, if you're saying that the income will still stay the same, income, which is 12,000 divided by 50,000, that moves you from a return on investment of 12% all the way to 24%. Now, looking at that as an investment, that's a really good investment. However, remember, this only works on your first property that you're buying. So always just make sure that the first property that you're going to be buying is the one that you would actually be getting the higher return on investment.
Yeah, man, and I'm also looking at it from a basic perspective of the rental. So if I will be using this as money down to decreasing how much I'm owing, it simply means more cash flow, because you're looking at, let's just say that a property that's worth 300,000 and then I didn't put any deposit on it. So you find yourself in a situation whereby you're paying around 3.1 on a monthly basis. However, now if I will be allocating this 100,000 to the deposit, now I'm looking at a loan of 200,000. So in that case, now you find that now it's at 2.1. So ultimately, it also has a direct impact towards the cash flow that you're getting from month to month as an investor.
The next one that we wanted to talk about is the Homevision. Homevision basically says that if you come to us, we are going to be giving you up to 30% of the amount that you asked of. So now what you do with the 30% is totally up to you. So what would happen is that you put in an offer of 1 million, right, with the property that you want to buy. However, the bank will then register it as 30% plus the 1 million, which means that it's 1,300,000, just to make sure that we are keeping the admin work at the minimum, right? Now, what then happens is that you will be financed the 1 million, and then after 2 or 3 months, what would then happen is that the 300,000 will reflect on your statement in terms of your income. Now, when you're not using that 300,000, it won't change how much you need to pay on a monthly basis in terms of your bond. But now it will only change once you start using that 300,000. So it's something like refinancing. However, this one is called the Homevision, whereby you actively apply for this when you buy the property, so that we keep down the paperwork that needs to go through the bank.
Yeah, but I'm sure with regards to that one, there are red tapes in terms of not everybody can be applying towards this.
Of course.
Because I'm thinking that the bank could be too exposed. Let's just say that the property was worth 1 million and you didn't negotiate for a discount. So you find out that you bought it at its highest, and then now you trying to apply for more. I'm trying to think as a bank right now, it's that, hey, if I'm borrowing you 1.3 million and then you come back after a year or two and say that you can't anymore, that leaves me exposed.
100%.
So I'm guessing that you must be buying it below market value to some extent.
100%. So it will vary between buying the property below market value and what type of job you have. Now, if you're looking at someone that is a doctor or someone that is a police officer or someone that is working in a job that is deemed not to be risky, right? That's when that you are more likely to be given the 1 million and the 30%. Now, if you're looking at someone that is in a job that is a bit riskier or that the bank perceives to be a bit riskier, then you would have to negotiate the property price way below market value in order for you to get the 30%. I mean, I remember even with us, right, there was a property that we bought and the bank was like, hey man, if you are still good, after 3 months, I'll be giving you 60,000. And that was good, right? Now, especially if you're looking at it towards your rental. Now, if I'm looking at it towards my rental and I'm saying that I'm going to be able to take out 60,000, this ultimately means that if I had put in 150,000 onto a property and then after 3 months I'm able to get or release some equity of this property, which would be 60,000, this would basically mean that my total investment into this property is 90,000, making this a good deal again. So there's a lot of ways of actually going by or getting the right property for you to actually invest in.
But I can imagine that you have to be really strict when it comes to these finances, because now you're having access to about 300,000 and this is money that you can pull out, is it?
Yes, it is money. It's hard cash that you can actually pull out. So it's something like refinance. However, this would be something that you would have actually applied for when you signed the offer to purchase.
So I'm guessing that there's no ways you are going to Mauritius with that money.
No ways, no ways. How this is advertised, it's actually advertised as something that you can use to modify the property.
Okay.
However, at the end of the day, as a property investor, you need to understand that if I'm going to modify the property, will it go towards getting me more income? If it won't go towards any more income, that means that that 60,000 or that 300,000 need to be put into another property, or it needs to buy another property in order for me to actually get to where I want to be.
And the last one is credit. Well, we were in the situation whereby the property was really distressed and the lady was like, but guys, don't buy it with a home loan. Just use your credit. Let's just say that they were charging us 30% annually. The property was going for 450. So if we are in a situation whereby they're charging you 30% annually, that means that paying for 1 year would have been 135,000. So now remember that period of which they then looked at it. The period that we looked at it from our side was 5 years. So if I'm going to be saying simple interest, 135 per year, which is our interest multiplied by 5, then I would be paying the 675,000. So therefore, if I will be adding it to the 450 of which we would have bought the property for, that would leave you at 1.1 million and 25,000. So Lebo, where was your head when she pitched this to you?
My thing is that understand who you're taking your information from is a very key thing. Now, if I'm saying that I'm going to be taking information about how the bank works from an estate agent, I mean, nothing wrong with an estate agent giving you advice, right? But now the best place to be getting information about how the bank works would be with a bond originator or someone that works at the bond facilities and actually gives out credit. So what I would say, or how I would actually structure things, would be that I would actually rather take it under a home loan. Now, if I'm taking it under a home loan, I know that I'm going to be paying, let's say, 11.75. Now, if I'm paying 11.75 as compared to the 20% that you are making comparison with, it's a bit different. Now, I know with some people are saying that, but at least if I'm doing it through a period of 5 years, I'll be able to pay off the property faster. However, the problem with that is that the interest is still too high. Now, if someone wants to pay off the property faster, how I would say they should structure it is that they should take out a home loan, right? And then pay off the home loan with how much they would be paying if they wanted to pay off the property faster. What this does is that it decreases how much the interest would be, because now you're not getting the 20% that you would have gotten on your credit card or your personal loan, and now you're actually getting the 11.75. Some people are even getting 10.75 depending on your credit score.
Yeah.
So looking at these two scenarios, I would say that you'd rather go with the home loan and then pay it off as soon as possible.
I mean, this credit card option level, it's a mess, especially when you're looking at after 5 years. Let's just say that you wanted to refinance.
Yeah.
That would put you in a mess.
You're in a mess, bro.
Because remember now we're at 1.1, 25,000, right?
Yeah.
And that's after 5 years. So you found out we did mention that you bought it for 450. So now if you are refinancing, that means it's extra credit on top of that 1.125. So ultimately, if you are really sitting and you're looking at your numbers, the question would then be, how much will I be able to sell this property for? You would have spent north 2 million just on this property whereby you bought it for 450.
Yeah. So now remember, the only time you would be spending 1.1 million is if you are paying it throughout the 5 years.
Yes.
Right. However, if you do get a buyer before the 5 years,
Yes.
you'd be able to actually not pay the 1.5,
I'm looking at
1.1
it-
million.
So I'm looking at it from a rental perspective. So you are not in a rush to finish it.
Yeesh.
So after that 5 years, then you're like, but you know what? Let me rather just convert this into a home loan.
You're refinancing.
You're refinancing.
And at that time, you are actually running at a cash flow negative, because there's no way that you're going to be buying a property for 450,000 and you're actually cash flowing 8,000 and you're still able to actually make more money.
That's why we said that there's a direct relationship between the interest that you're being charged with the loan that you're taking. So let us be aware of the loans that we're taking, because if we're not aware of them, we're finding ourselves, yes, investing in property, but when you're looking at the quality of your property, it's something that's really questionable, and we'd like to sit down with you one-on-one via Zoom if you want to have a discussion with us so that we can add value to your journey. Hit the link below in our description so that we can have that conversation.
If you've watched this far, please do put down a pro on the comments, man. It's always fun seeing your pro. Invest like a pro.
With no mouth.
Cheers.